everybody, welcome. We are chatting to Yulia from Madam Wealth. It's going to be a really great night. We are actually going to be talking about all things money. We're talking about money strategy, money planning, and it's going to be a really great night. Tonight we have the lovely Yulia from Madam Wealth. How are you this evening, Yulia?
Hi, I am so well.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
No, you're
Sorry, I might be a
welcome.
bit
Let me just...
slow.
No, that's okay. I'm just going to turn you up so I can hear you a little bit better. Thanks for joining me.
Perfect.
You are on holidays at the moment.
I'm just away. I just took a few nights off. I am away in Mount Tamborine in Queensland, so that's like Gold Coast hinterlands, and yeah, just
Lovely.
taking it a little bit easier. That's all, with my glass of wine.
Nice.
I think
yeah.
Whenever we've decided that red wine is what we're going to do, that I'm like, I'm getting the wine ready. We clearly love our wine.
Yeah,
that's obvious.
It's a great way to unwind. That's the reality. Yeah.
I love it. That's fun.
Both of us are big fans of telling our money what to do, but also enjoying the good things of life as well. Sometimes you can spend money on the good things too early, and that might be a car or whatever else, but wine, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, wine ticks the list. It's fine. It's on the good list.
It's on the good list, yes. Yeah. And I also have chocolate as well, because I thought, these go well together. So I've also got something to nibble on as well. What about you?
No nibbles. That's just the wine. I should have thought about that too.
No.
I saw your chocolate and I thought, yeah, that's fine. But yeah, no, I agree. I'm all for the balance. I think it's very important because realistically, otherwise, how do you kind of get through? How do you get through it all? You have to kind of have the balance. You have to have, a little bit of the, like, I don't want to say naughty, but you know what I mean? Like a little bit of the fun stuff.
The blow money, I think I have seen people call it. The blow money or the smile money or just the spend money, the sanity money. I think my sister calls it the sanity money. It's everybody's got to have just that little bit of something that, gets you just to release a little bit and focus on, I guess, the bigger picture as well. Heading to all those bigger goals.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's it. I call it the treat yourself.
I should probably say, yeah. So, Yulia, you are from Madam Wealth. That is your company, and you are a money coach for everybody that is with us tonight. And so can you just give us a bit of a background of what a money coach actually does as opposed to a financial planner? Because they are different.
Yeah, that's right. So my background is in financial planning. And I thought my life would be financial planning until I sort of started money coaching with financial planners. And I'll just give a quick sort of overview of that. Tell me if you can't hear me for whatever reason. So with financial planners, what they do, and there are, incredible financial planners out there. They spend the time with the client to understand where they actually want to get to in the very long term, right? So a lot of the times people would come and see them if they're starting in the early stages of already thinking, okay, well, what do I want, the late years of my life to look like, and helping them create that wealth for them as well as manage it. So manage it in a way that they can grow. And different aspects around that as well, everything that encompasses it. As a financial coach and as a money coach, me, myself, I focus on helping people, whatever stage they're at, helping them get to a point where they're starting to feel wealthy. And then they can start to make a decision of, okay, then I can go and see a financial advisor if I need to, or, you know, am I able to pull this together myself, or whatever the case is. And sometimes the reality is that there are people that don't even realize they are in a position where they can think about their money. And that's the part that I saw was a really, really huge gap, that just as financial advisors, there wasn't an opportunity as much to fill it. So I felt like becoming a coach and really helping people through understanding, okay, where can I start to really make an impact on my life financially and grow that, so that I can start to actually see that future, that potential future and potential retirement as a possibility. And I love doing this. Like, it's very fulfilling. I just have to add.
Which is great. And I think that certainly a lot of the people that I speak to, when you do work in that finance space like we do, the different aspects, there are so many different aspects to it, and it becomes quite complicated, and often people just don't know, where do I go? Who do I speak to first, to be able to get a sense of, this is where I'm up to, this is where I'm going. Am I ready for that yet, or am I not ready for that? And I should say, you also help people that aren't just at that early stages of, you know, preparing to, say, buy a house, but you also help people at the other end of the spectrum as well, where they've already got a house, they've got some investment properties, they're sitting there going, what next? Why have I amassed these assets, and is this going to be enough for retirement? Am I actually doing this right? Do I have the right structure in place? Am I using my money the best possible way that I can, so that my money ultimately is working for me? And I know you've worked with quite a few different people over your years, because you've obviously been in this space for a really long time. Do you have any favorite stories of working with different people that you would be okay to share with us, if you don't tell us their names?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I would pick a couple from sort of each spectrum. As I said, I love helping people who are kind of, like I was saying, really starting at the point where they're not even realizing that they can really make things move, even if they are in a position where they do have the assets and the investments. And it's a matter of really switching, you know, that understanding what's going on structurally as well as in the mindset space. And also helping people who are in a point where they're thinking, okay, well, I'm really starting to financially make a change, you know, to my life and to how I'm progressing and the assets that I am accumulating. And starting to think about, okay, well, what can I do, number one, to make it easier for myself to potentially slow down sooner rather than later? And number two, starting to think how I can actually support, you know, my family and my kids to make sure that they go and get the, you know, the education or the life that they feel, you know, they should have. So being able to create that legacy in a way as well, right? So now seeing that we're starting to get those assets to grow and really having that long-term impact. So I would say, yeah, having the discussions of, you know, potential early retirement are really, really exciting, and looking at ways to structure. And there's a lot that goes into that, which is where I would say it is very much a combination of talking to me to see how to plan things out, as well as seeing a financial advisor to look at you know, the really legal stuff as well as the specific investments if that's what they need to do. So it's definitely a combination of the two.
Yeah, and it is a long journey as well. I think that we've previously chatted around how a lot of people have this idea of, you know what, I don't really want to spend the rest of my life working a 9 to 5 for, you know, the next 30 years, but I enjoy working. So how can I adjust my lifestyle and my wealth to be able to facilitate that and to be able to accommodate that while still being able to send my kids to the school that I'd like them to go to, and to be able to have holidays and all of those different things. And it is a journey, and I think a lot of people forget that it's not just something that you do one day. It takes time, and the planning side of things takes time because the implementation takes a long time as well. So for you and what you've been able to do and to be able to work with different people, have you seen that progression? Do you have people come back to you a few times and say, hey, I've put in that initial plan, what do I do next? Is that what they really talk to you about? Or is it really about, hey, let's sit down, let's work out what the plan is, and you then become more of an accountability partner?
Yeah, it's very much in the planning stage. It's really creating that vision that they might have, putting it down on paper and starting to put action plans in place. Very much so. And the thing that I find really, really important is starting with the end in mind, no matter which stage they're at, is really thinking, okay, well, what does the next, and like it's great when you're sitting down and you're talking about, well, what does the next, you know, 20 or so years look like? And I know that it's such a big sort of number of years and a lot can change, but even if we have an idea of a vision of where we're going, being able to create something that you can then slowly start to build up on shows that you know, you're already kind of thinking ahead and you're starting with those steps from the top. And number two, that it is very much a marathon, right? It's not quite a sprint because like it's not, you know, and I think that's the big difference between, you know, there's all the like the FIRE movements, which are incredible things, which is, you know, financial independence, retire early.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the movement itself, and what's great about that movement is it starts people to think about it, whereas they may not have thought about it prior to that, but it gets them thinking about it. And I'm not a fan, because I like wine and chocolate, I'm not a fan of the extreme frugality of the movement as it is, because it really is, you know, put 75-80% of your income into savings or into mostly investing into the stock market, so you get dividends, in a nutshell, for those that don't know, which I'm not a fan of because I enjoy life, and I think being able to enjoy your life is important for your own mental health. But also in Australia, property itself also does really well. It isn't just a case of, in America, in other countries, putting all your money into the stock market is probably a pretty good option. Whereas here, properties appreciate over time pretty consistently, and if you've made a really good investment, then actually you're probably going to do okay in, you know, the next 10 years, 20 years. Not that this is financial advice, I should say. Very general. We are talking generally here.
Yeah, very much general. Yes, 100%. Not an advisor either. But yeah, 100%. And you probably have a lot of these conversations as well, you know, talking about property and the build up of property. And it's important for people to sorry, am I Am I there?
I think it just stalled a little bit. It buffered a little bit, but you're back, so it's okay.
Sorry in advance.
You are on holidays. It can be forgiven.
Thank you. Oh, now I lost my train of thought.
We're just talking about the conversations and the different conversations that you actually have as you're going through the journey.
That's right. That's it. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, so with them having an understanding of what they're comfortable with as well, right? Because there are different types of investments, and I'm starting to even have conversations as well. So it's really understanding that there are a lot of different options and weighing up what makes a lot of sense, and not just relying, like you said, you know, on shows, you know, American movies, things that we see on the internet for the FIRE community, who, you know, might be majority of them from America, where you're right, they're kind of living, you know, live on 10% and then retire in 10 years, continuing to live on that 10%. It's like you want that balance, and you want people to understand that when it comes to money, there is a level of comfortability that they need to have. That's kind of my philosophy behind it all.
And it is also different, you know, once you've got a married couple as well, because you might actually be in a couple and one person is one style of and views money in one way, and the other person views money in a very different way. And I imagine that makes planning a little bit more challenging from your side of things. But when somebody first comes to you as a money coach, what are the things that you really hope that they've actually perhaps done before they speak to you, or thought about before they actually have a bit of a chat to you?
The beauty of what I do is I don't necessarily need them to have thought about any of that. I meet them where they're at. That's the idea, is that I'm able to say, okay, well, what pieces are missing for you? Let's find a way to plug them in, I guess, you know. So if it is a couple that comes in and they can't quite they can't quite see eye to eye, or, you know, because of that, they're really having trouble moving forward with the plans or knowing where to move to next, then we can start having a conversation. All right, well, where do you guys want to be? What are your values? What are you together striving for? And then take it a little bit more of like towards the mindset end of things to kind of start with, and then say, okay, now you both understand where you're at. Let's then move from there. So I think that's kind of the beauty of the coaching, the money coaching part, is that it's really just saying, hey, where are you guys at? Let's try and move forward from there.
Yeah. So as long as they really, you've got an idea of where you're aiming for, then it's easy to be able to plan out and put a strategy in place to make sure somebody's then able to achieve that particular strategy, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes people have an idea that they're like, okay, well, I kind of like, you know, I'm earning quite well, and I have done it, like I followed the rules of what I need to do. But like I'm not 100% sure what I can be doing or why I'm even doing it, or I'm ending a lot of the times where I'm spending a lot of the money, maybe not quite planning as much as I should be. Then we perhaps could be having a conversation about, all right, well, what are the goals? Where do you want to be? And that's what I mean, is that it's kind of just wherever they are stuck.
So when you say someone is stuck or feeling stuck with their money and their financial position, for you, what does that kind of mean? Does that mean they're not achieving their goals, or they perhaps aren't sure of what their goals should be? What does financially stuck, I guess, yeah, what does it really mean from your perspective?
So it could mean a few things. Like we said, if we're taking it probably a step back to a position where my clients are still thinking about, okay, well, how do I progress forward? How do I start to save for the things that I want to save? They might be stuck in that sense financially, where they don't necessarily have the assets to start potentially thinking big. But then there's the other side of it, where people are stuck because they might think that they're stuck financially, where in reality it might not be that situation. Sometimes it could be, like I was saying, because there is that build up, like kind of follow the rules, they've built up the assets, they do have a mortgage, they are doing the things the right way, but they're finding that everything that's a little bit extra goes somewhere else. And it could be anything, you know, sometimes it can be things that start off as kind of like fun things, but then it then is obvious that they've gone overboard for quite some time, and they're kind of losing sight of where they're going as well.
What do you mean?
And so I'm talking about maybe, you know, maybe gambling. That's an example of a situation where I have had these discussions, and where it's taken a while, but they've come to a point where they're recognizing that there is a lot more they can be doing with themselves and their finances, but they're feeling stuck in that way.
Yeah, I certainly know
that. Example, but
it's an extreme example, but it's also not that uncommon either. So I've certainly had couples where it's turned out that one of the partners has enjoyed gambling, and the other partner didn't know that they were gambling, and it had slowly started to turn into an uncontrollable habit. And the downside of that, you know, and what that ultimately then can have on somebody's life, if they can't control it, can be quite devastating. But then I've also had other clients where they have enjoyed gambling, and it wasn't until they stopped and decided, actually, I want to buy a house, and buying a house is more important. And they've then actually stopped and looked at how much they're spending in a given month just to be able to have that fun of gambling, and the impact that then had on their savings and their ability to be able to have the deposit for their first home. That then became the catalyst for them deciding, okay, you know what, it's no longer fun anymore, and let's change the way we do things. And I think that is something that different people go through, and deciding what is it that you're actually doing with your money, where is your money going, is it being given a bit of a purpose, is it helping you to reach your ultimate goals, is important. And certainly if you are stuck in working out what those are, then Yulia is certainly able to help with those. So I was just saying, you know, if you don't have a plan in place, but you know where your goal actually is, then obviously, Yulia, you are able to help. And certainly I think Madam Wealth also has a few free tools that people can use as well, that they can download to sort of help them, you know, start putting a plan in place, which is always great to see. So for those that have just joined us, Yulia is from Madam Wealth, and she helps with money planning and money strategy, which is fantastic from my side of things, because it means that when somebody comes to me and they've already spoken with Yulia, I certainly know that they have already had a lot of the conversations that I'll be having, and something like a budget isn't going to be scary. They already have a bit of an understanding of how much they need to have as a deposit to be able to buy a house. But they also have a bit of an understanding around the types of home that they're wanting to purchase and what their ultimate goal actually is, which is also really important when you are speaking with a mortgage broker, because the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what are you wanting to purchase? A house to live in or an investment property? And sometimes people don't know the answer, which is fine. But certainly with Yulia at Madam Wealth, you know, she can help to guide you through, you know, what is the right path for somebody, which way do you go? Because it's a big choice. It's a lot of money. It's a big purchase. And for many people, it's one of the biggest purchases they'll make in their life. So you do want to take it seriously. So speaking with somebody is always a good option. So Yulia, what are some of the free resources that you actually have available for people? But also, where can they find you? Obviously on Instagram.
Yes, so Instagram is the first port of call, madam.wealth. I am very open and very open to having a conversation. If you just have a quick question or if you want to know how things run, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I do hold free strategy sessions where we can sit down, you know, for half an hour or so and just kind of have a look at where you're trying to go and what's stopping you from moving ahead, kind of like we spoke about today. If any of that resonated or you're kind of feeling like, yeah, that sounds a little bit like me, let's have a chat. And at the end of it, it kind of is up to you whether I'm the best person for you to talk to or if I just pass you straight to Edwena or to another person that is able to help you much more than myself. Otherwise, I do have a few sort of guides that you can find on my links in my Instagram. The one that I have at the moment is if you are in a position where you're trying to save, I've got a few sort of tips there for you to try and save the most as quickly as you can. As well as having a Facebook group if you just want to feel like you're in a community where people are talking money and, you know, talking strategy a lot more.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And I should say that getting tips on saving and actually saving isn't something that is just for people looking to buy their first home or people looking to buy a property. It is actually something that everybody should be doing. The amount of people that I see that already have a home but actually don't have any savings in place is a little bit unfortunate. Realistically, having savings and having some kind of access to some liquid cash, and when I say liquid cash, I mean either cash sitting in an offset account, redraw, bank account, term deposit, something that you can get access to relatively quickly. That's actually really important for everybody, not just those that are just starting to get into the property market. It is for everybody.
100%. I'm so glad that you've mentioned that. Having that conversation about having an emergency fund and really, again, I'm kind of like, I'm so into planning. I'm like, okay, well, what, you know, if something happens, what does that look like? What is that money going to do for you? How can you access it in the easiest way? And you're right. Anyone in any position, no matter what the situation is, should have a set put aside that they're able to rely on if something goes wrong. So yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and you know what, I can give you an example of that. Not that long ago, I don't know how, but accidentally I put a nappy, because we have an 8-month-old. I put a perfectly clean nappy into our washing machine with the clothes and washed it. Turns out that's a really bad idea for your washing machine. All of the stuff inside the nappy just went absolutely everywhere, went into all of the pipes, clogged the whole thing up. Opened it at the end of the cycle and just went, what have I done? Am I so sleep deprived? I don't know. Maybe I just hate washing. I do hate washing. But at that point, my first thought was, we're going to have to buy a whole new washing machine. We just bought this one not that long ago, a whole new washing machine. And my next thought was, oh, that's that's okay. I'm pretty sure they're pretty cheap. And if you pay cash, I do know you get them cheaper. And so for us, we have always got cash sitting around. It is important. And I can tell you from the last time we had to buy a washing machine, because it turned out the washing machine was okay after putting a nappy in it, amazingly. If you pay cash, you will get it cheaper. Pay cash for things, people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And here's a tip for you while we're at it. That's awesome. That's a good story. You know, it sucks that you had to go through the process of putting it in the washing machine to learn about that. I would have had no idea. So I can understand. Yeah. And I probably, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of preface this, and this is probably my financial planning background coming in. As part of everything that I talk about, creating a safety net is super, super important. Again, no matter what situation you're in, whether it's creating that safety fund, emergency fund, maybe it's starting to look at a little bit closely at the insurances that you have, specifically, you know, the insurance on your life, the insurance on your health, just to know that, you know, sometimes it's the washing machine that breaks, and sometimes it could be our leg that breaks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So being aware that these things sometimes happen, and knowing that there are people to talk to about it if, you know, you're curious about how to put that in place. So again, yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. It's a very good point.
Yes. But I won't be doing that anytime soon. I've got to say, I have been checking the washing that little bit more when I have had to do it.
Good.
Well, on that happy note, and I know because you are still on holidays, so thank you very much for joining us, Yulia. And for anybody that is interested, please get in touch with Yulia at Madam Wealth on Insta. And I hope you have a lovely time for the rest of your time away, Yulia. And thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure people have gotten a lot out of tonight. And if you have any questions, then feel free to get in touch with Yulia in the comments. This is going to become a IGTV as part of the live talk series. And if you haven't already watched some of the other live talks, feel free to go back. We've got some talking to conveyancers and builders and other people as well. But thank you very much for joining me, Julia, and have a lovely time for the rest of your holidays. And yeah, if anybody would like to get in touch with Yulia, then by all means, I will also tag her in the comments so that you can see her and chat with her as well. So thank you very much, everybody, and thanks, Yulia, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.